offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need.
Wow!
Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
And welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm WEBBO HERBERT, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest or some concern. If you think that you have something which fits into the category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. Or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we'll not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standard. But we encourage you to always be forthful with your point. Again, thank you for joining us. Your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. Also, you can follow the live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Tonight, as requested, everybody should be in. So if you think that some friend of yours may have worked late or somehow missed it, call them up now. Tell them they don't want to miss this show this evening. We got a strong lineup for you. Every evening at the top of this show, we give an invitation to encourage folks, if they would like to be a part of the program, how to go about it. We have someone who took us up on just that, and they're here this evening. Be a part of the program. Again, let me emphasize, anyone who would like to be a part of the program, you can contact us 1-869-469-1700, or you can send us an email or anything. Contact us anyhow, and let's talk about it and see how you can make a contribution in that manner. The Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons is that person. The Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons, good evening and welcome to Thought That Get Results.
Good evening, WEBBO. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It's always a pleasure to join you in studio.
Okay. Now, I advertised a moment ago that you took the opportunity of when we invited folks to come on, if they think they'd like to be a part of the show, get something positive, even maybe negative in the community to contribute. You took us up on that. Am I correct?
You're certainly correct, WEBBO.
Okay. Just for clarification, because people like to spin, right? Okay, so we will get into that, and let me tell you how much we appreciate you doing just that, and we welcome you. One thing I always say up front, this thing ain't easy, you know that, right?
Certainly.
Okay, good. Again, you ain't no easy street either. Okay, Conrad Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, WEBBO, and once again I say a pleasant good evening to your hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio, to my colleagues around the table, special good evening to Cleon, the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons. I welcome you to the program, at least for this evening. And Webbo, you know how much I like to be a part of the conversation, the things that's going on here, you know, community, locally and regionally, and sometimes even internationally. Webbo, I am one individual who likes to contribute to the very topical issues that affects the people, whether it's political, social, or otherwise. Webbo. So I'm happy to be here once again. Let me say hello to my friends in the international circle, my friends in Toronto, Canada, and my friends in Connecticut, especially Mr. Osborne Liebert. A special good evening to you. And so, Webbo, I just want to say thank you once again for inviting me to this episode of Talk That Get Results.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and thanks once again for the invitation. I'd like to say a special good evening to my colleagues, fellow panelists, especially Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons, my good friend. Welcome. We're happy to have you, and of course, you would have brightened up the room, amongst us men. And I hope that your tenure with us would be a long and fruitful one.
I know you're not finished yet, but since I am in charge, now what do you think about him?
He's quite, you use some great adjectives, I suppose.
Okay, that's it. Go ahead.
Webbo, this evening, I want to say a special good evening to those who might be mourning. We know that the Lord is always a pillar of strength, and we're asking you to lean on Him. He would give you some solace. Webbo, there are some who are celebrating Webbo and who will be celebrating. There are a few persons from my area who celebrating this month. I think Terry Newton, he will be celebrating. I think might be tomorrow. So too is Justin Huggins. Happy birthday. And Webbo, I believe I left the very best for last, Webbo. There's a young lady by the name of Rasmin, very pulchudinous young lady, who happens to be my wife. I want to say a special good evening to you, Rasmin, and happy birthday tomorrow when it comes. I hope that you would have a wonderful time. I'll do whatever little I can do to make your time a wonderful one. So have a wonderful birthday, sweetheart. Love you. Webbo, I also want to say, Webbo, there have been much talked, Webbo, about persons, and I believe maybe a little later in the program we would be hearing from one such person, Webbo, who persons would have been bantering around that he might have died, Webbo. So a little later in the program, I'm sure, no doubt, that we would be hearing that individual voice. Webbo, as I often say, this program is one that is interactive, so I'm encouraging all persons, who are listening and viewing near and far to call in, interact with us, ask questions if you may. You can make suggestions too. And of course, we can learn from you, and of course, you can learn something from us also. I'm hoping, as per usual, Webbo, that this could be a fruitful discussion this evening. And once again, Webbo, thank you very much for the invitation, and Honorable, welcome once again.
Thank you.
Okay, let me do this. Cleon, is it okay to say Cleon sometimes?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay. A lot of people would know who you are in other maybe forums and other audiences. So why don't, for this audience, you just give a brief synopsis of who you are, let people know, and then we can continue from there.
Oh, thank you. So, pleasant good evening, everyone. I am Cleon Stapleton Simmons, the parliamentary representative for Nevis 5, that is St. Thomas's Parish. I'm indeed happy to join this wonderful panel on Let's Start this evening. It's always a pleasure to come and to dialogue with people and to listen to people's views and hear their concerns, of course, and add whatever contribution I can add. And so I'm very happy that Mr. Herbert accepted my request to be on the show this evening. I just want to say just a few housekeeping matters. I would like to say happy birthday in advance to my husband, who is celebrating. That's Mr. Nigel Simmons, who is celebrating on Thursday. And so we know February is the month of love. Of course, we have Valentine's Day coming up. So I just want to extend happy birthday to him and to everyone else who's celebrating in the month of love. I trust and hope that we all can spread love and give love, and as well as appreciate love during the month of February. I also wish to take this opportunity to extend sincerest condolences to a few persons who I know who have passed, and one such person is a very good friend of mine from my constituency, and that is Mr. Robert Bate Clark. Most of you know him as Bate. He was indeed a fisherman, and so he's the son of my good friend there in Barnescott, Mabel. And so I just want to extend deepest sympathy to the entire family there in Barnescott, to Vanessa and all the boys and the entire Barnescott, as well as St. Thomas's community. Certainly that loss would be indeed a big loss to the fishing community here in Nevis, as well as those of us who normally would go by bait on a Saturday to, enjoy his seafood cuisine, fish, whatever he may have. And so he will deeply be missed, and we are indeed very saddened by his loss.
Okay, now we have two other things to do. Roger, you had mentioned that you wanted to speak with someone who wanted to clarify something, and then there is another person who has accepted our invitation to be on the show or to put something on the table. They will do it by telephone. So we will let you go first, Roger, and that person who is listening, and you will go next after Roger is finished. So Roger, go ahead.
WEBBO.
Yeah, Roger, what's up now?
You're live. You are live. You are live. Turn down your radio in the background, and you are live on VON radio.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you get that sorted out, Roger. I have you off, so you can tell him what is what, and then I'll come. No, you go ahead speaking to him, and then you give me the signal when you're ready to put him on air.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
Always satisfying. Vaughn Radio, the powerhouse.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results, let's go back to Roger.
You're live on radio. You are live.
Good evening, everyone. Day Nevis, good evening, Naya, good evening, Mrs. Stapleton Simon, good evening, WEBBO, and good evening, Roger. I would like to thank everyone on Nevis who shared the concern about me and the rumor that was going around Nevis towards me. And I am just one to tell people that I am not dead, I'm alive and kicking, and I'm alive and well, and I'm doing fine over here in England, enjoying England with my wifey. So I'd like to thank everyone for their support over these past 4 days. A lot of people call me from Nevis, nearly, I can say over 200 people have called me from Nevis, sharing their concern about me. And I just like to thank everyone for all of their support, and I still have a lot to offer to my country. And I will be out. I'm going around England trying to get some stuff for the friends of Navies. So I still have a lot to offer to my country. So thank everyone for their concern and their support. I am not dead. I'm still alive and well. Thank God.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the first. We're standing by now, so the next caller can call who promised to put something on the table. You can call now. Okay, let's see if we have that person. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. This is Pastor Millard speaking.
Very good, yes. Go ahead, Pastor.
Good evening to you and your panelists, and especially to Honorable Cleon Simmons and to the other panelists. Good evening. It is said that every journey starts with the first step. And if you don't know where you're going, when you get there, you will not even know that you are there. It is also said, do not start what you cannot stop. A few years ago, shortly after the pandemic, there was a group of people from the United States who came here and met with government ministers and the Ministry of Education to talk about the introduction of this gender thing that they have in the United States and to have it introduced in the schools. I was not in those meetings, so I do not know exactly what was the outcome. However, since that time, they have been coming back and forth. And now, the present government has introduced upon us a new passport form with gender male, female, or X. And also they ask the question, the passport form, to state whether you are Mr., Mrs., MS, MISS, or any other. According to the Word of God, God created male and female, period. And this is a very serious matter because there are situations here on Nevis and St. Kitts, I know more so about Nevis, that are asking people when they come to fill out form whether they want a job, what is your preferred gender? I am wondering if this is government's instruction or they are taking it upon themselves to ask people what is your preferred gender. The presidents and prime ministers of Africa and the Bahamas have made their position very clear to the entire world and to these perpetrators that it is not their intention to introduce these things to their country. They let them know, especially the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, he let the world know where he stands upon that, and without any water in his mouth. I think it is time for the Prime Minister of the Federation to let us know where he stands on this matter, rather than springing these surprises on us. I don't know what they have in the passport because I don't have any passport as yet, but I know about the passport form. On February 28th, there will be a National Day of Prayer. And I'm wondering which God are we going to be praying to when we are going against what the Almighty God has established? I'm a little surprised that the Prime Minister would have done this really and just spring it upon us without discussing it with anybody. I'm therefore calling upon the Evangelical Association and the Christian Council to call upon the Prime Minister to recall this new passport form and whatever is put in passport when it comes to gender. There are only two genders, male and female. And he needs to do this before the 1st of June, because the 1st of June is the beginning of the hurricane season. St. Kitts and Nevis don't even need a whole hurricane, they just need a half a hurricane to blow St. Kitts and Nevis off the earth. Last year, I understand that we had over 1,800 road accidents and 13 fatalities. I'm wondering, could it be that the glory of God has departed from St. Kitts and Nevis? I mean, it's frightening to hear that we had 13 fatalities in 1 year in a little federation like this. My question, therefore, to the panelists, or questions I would like to ask. What do you think of this new passport form and what may be written in passports? What do you think about people filling out forms at different establishments and they're asking you, what is your preferred gender? I also heard someone say that they've been to a particular place in St. Kitts and the bathroom are all unisex bathrooms. Could we be seeing a change in the school curriculum and the Prime Minister just spring it upon us like he spring this new form upon us? So I would like to know what the panelists think about this, if it is a good idea. Are we heading on a slippery slope? The Democrats in the United States lost a whole election because they ran it upon abortion and this gender identity thing. And I'm wondering, and right now they're having mass confusion in the party because there are prominent people in the Democrat Party who said they could not endorse Kamala Harris because of this gender thing and the changing of textbooks. Now the textbooks are going to be changed again. Do we really have the wherewithal to be changing textbooks in St. Kitts and Nevis? Are we heading on a slippery slope here? Where do you think we are heading? I end my question.
Cora, before you go, might I ask a question myself?
Sure.
You indicated that the passport forms gives you the option of choosing which gender you prefer, correct?
Yes.
Did they make any suggestions to choose from?
Or is it that you choose whether you want male, female, X, or any other? I'm saying that this is making room for any more genders. God created male and female, or there are only two genders. Why would the passport form be changed to accommodate this? And then what will they put in the passport if a person said they want to be shim?
Right. So what I'm saying is, so that's what I was asking, whether or not the previously forms used to have male or female, correct?
Right.
There was not in those times a writing space, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking now. So you're saying that there are male, female, and other?
X.
And also you write in where
I guess you circle X. You circle that you're X. You're neither male nor female. You're X. And then above that, it says what title you want. MR, Mr., Mistress, Miss, or MS, or any other.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it myself, so that is why I was asking so that I can be informed accordingly. Now, the other thing I find was interesting, and that's why I like to have discussions and engagements such as this. The reason, or one of the reasons that you put forth, I noted it, why Kamala Harris lost, was because of abortion and the other gender thing.
Yeah.
So I made a note of that because I thought she lost because she was a poor candidate, because I heard that argument before as well. Okay, so anybody has any clarification they need from the caller before they put the other... Oh, the other thing that you mentioned, caller, was you asked a rhetorical question, I suppose, whether the glory of God is departed from us. Remember that? Recall that?
Yeah.
But on the contrary, I hear the leaders, pronouncing how great God is to us because the Federation is doing very well.
True. The Federation might be doing well, they think, financially, but spiritually, I'm not sure how well we are doing.
So you think that it's quite possible that the glory of God may have departed on us and departed from us, but at the same time as the leaders pronounce, the glory of God is actually with us because we are doing very well, maybe best in the Latin America and the Caribbean.
Well, they might be doing financial, but what about everybody else? The ministers of government, they might be really enjoying the financial blessings, but what about other people? And it's frightening, really and truly, in my humble opinion, to hear that. I was saddened when I heard that 13 road fatalities. Never had we seen this in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the strange things that are happening. And I'm wondering, I would like to know if we have ever had over 1,800 road accidents in Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis had over 500, and I think St. Kitts had over 1,300. This is mind-boggling, really and truly, because if you estimate it, in Nevis, it's nearly 2 per day, on an average, not that it happens every day, because, 365 days, and then you have 500 plus accidents. That's far too many.
While I understand that you can attribute it to a sort of biblical concept, isn't that possible also from a factual standpoint and looking at it every day, the consequence of an basically indisciplined society? That
is true, but also, Rebel, we cannot keep ourselves safe. And I feel as though that everybody should be praying every single day when you get up, ask God to protect us from accidents. And
Pastor, somewhere it is written, prayer without works is dead. You agree with that?
Exactly. I do believe that people are being careless because I've seen people on the road with their phone looking down. Even I've seen on a boat going to St. Kitts. The young captains are sailing those boats and they're on their phone texting. And I believe that if they don't stop, we're going to have a difficulty, some sort of accidents on the sea, because I was on a boat and the gentleman was there on his phone. And a wave hit that boat and the water went over the boat. And I believe that if he was paying attention, he could have turned the boat into the wave rather than alongside the wave and allowed that wave to almost knock the boat over. And I'm calling upon the public, especially the captains of these little boats, these little ferries between Charleston and Nevis, to please pay attention to the waves. And when you're sailing the boat, do not be on your phone. You can't be on your phone texting and see when the waves are coming at the boat. And I was scared to death because the wave went clean over the boat. The top of the boat had an opening and the water came in the top. And it's a miracle that that boat did not capsize.
So, not to suggest that we should not continue or go back to prayer. You will also agree that if we more disciplined society, we perhaps can cut down or eradicate some of these ills.
Exactly. I pray, God, please do for us what we cannot do for ourselves, and that we do for ourselves those things we are capable of doing. And if we are texting and making telephone calls, if you're going to make a telephone call, but God say, pull off the word and stop I try to make it a practice. If my phone rings and I'm going to answer it, I pull off the road and stop. I mean, we have to do for ourselves what we can do. God is not going to do for us what we can do for ourselves. God is not going to spoon feed us. God is not going to put his foot on the brakes when we are supposed to do it. And so we have to do for ourselves those things we're capable of doing, and for God's sake, stay off the phone when you're driving. And I've seen people driving and they're on their phone, and you could see that they're texting. And you just can't be doing both at the same time. And I do believe that carelessness is one of the reasons for the amount of accidents that we're having. But at the same time, God could deliver us, because I have had some close calls myself, and it's the grace of God. Not necessarily my fault, but, you know, I believe that it's God. Sometimes God keep us from it. Like somebody was asking with the plane accident there in the States with the helicopter flying into the American airline. People are asking why God allowed this to happen if God could not stop it. Oh yes, God could have. The helicopter could have been 1 split second away from that thing, or 10 feet below it. God could have allowed something to happen, but we do not know why God allowed it to happen, and I wish that, everybody, that it did not happen, because so many lives lost. I'm just saying that, true, we can ask the question, why God allowed these things to happen? And we don't know how much God has saved us from because we prayed. Only eternity will tell what God saved us from because of divine intervention. There is something called divine intervention. And we have to pray every day and seek God's guidance. And again, some of the overtaking. We have to tell ourselves, we are not going to overtake unless it is saved. Okay.
And just to before you go, just to make the point also, that we also agree that God do things, heals and so on according to the scripture, but we can't fool him, right? We agree with that.
Exactly.
So that if we just get up and say, well, okay, let's God and say and so on, he will know who's bluffing from who's not bluffing, correct?
Certainly.
Okay. Just checking. All right, thank you very much. Let's go to the panel.
WEBBO, if I can chime in here, WEBBO. First, I must say I'm not familiar with the new passport forms. And if indeed that gender is on the passport forms or any other forms, maybe what needs to be done is to erase the word gender and put the word sex. Now the reason I'm saying this is because sex, to my knowledge, is male or female. Gender is basically a way of life, your social way of life, how you carry yourself, what you basically do. So yes, we, at least I, and I can dare say we, are a Christian society. We grew up knowing the Bible, the biblical teachings, and I still adhere to them the best way I can up to today.
So Roger, you're of the view that that pass will solve that possible confusion that Pastor mentioned,
Yes.
so it wouldn't be opening up can of worms for people to write different things.
Yes.
How do you explain this?
Well,
Walk with me. There was a fellow way back when, he was filling out a form, and the form had that same thing that you suggest, sex. And he wrote twice a day when the weather is dry.
well, it's simple. Takes education.
Okay.
We need to educate ourselves. Our educational system need to educate us.
You forgive me, Roger, but I'm getting weary with this, everything. We need to educate. We need education. Every time I ask, well, who's going to do the educating? I'm still asking the rhetorical question 30 years on. If everybody is right, I wonder who is wrong. Because the ills of the society are highlighted by everyone, saying that we need to stop these things that are being done. So who's doing these ill things?
Start with us, as an individual. Start with each of us as the individual.
And everybody says that. Cleon says that. Nye says that. I say that. And the problem still remains.
Well, but as you usually say on a Tuesday night, it's talk that gets results. And maybe that most persons, when they talk not getting results. Maybe the minority gets results, and maybe the minority need to be overturned to become the majority, so we can be more result oriented.
Cleon, you agree with him?
I certainly do. I think well, but these issues, the issue of gender and sex are always controversial issues, and so, while I don't think that there's any particular stance, I think there are more personal preferences. But what I would like to say is, if at all, and I have not seen any evidence, I have not really seen the most recent password forms, but what I would say, certainly if there was a change perhaps in the description or definition that is required, perhaps a wider discussion should have really been had, just to inform the general public and sensitize people in relation to this issue, so that it's not really caught by surprise, and just to really try to understand the rationalization behind it, the rationale, like why were the forms changed, if indeed they were changed, and really what is the ultimate objective. So without that background, it's kind of difficult to really make any sort of judgment in relation to that.
Isn't that the way we normally do things, though?
That is the way we normally do things, and perhaps the time has come for us to really look at how we do things. A lot of times, sometimes we tend to put the cart before the horse, and so maybe with the benefit of hindsight and just looking back from past experiences, maybe the time has come for us to really have conversations. There's nothing wrong with it.
Let me get this
people.
Cleon, let me get this.
Yes.
Caller, please call back and please be patient with us. I'll get to you. Okay, go ahead, Cleon.
Yes, so perhaps it's because Roger mentioned education, and I tend to agree with him, but at which point are we going to educate? Is it after the fact or is it before the fact? And so I think, once people could understand, not saying that they will change their view, I'm just saying that it's good to have open and frank dialogue and discussions and communication, just so that people can understand why certain things are being done.
Anybody want to give me an example of when we have done good education on a very important topic? Hello, good evening.
Good evening. With regard that passport issue, right? It seems as if, it almost feels as if that was to sneak on the radar for most people. And you ask who should educate. I think the pastor did the right thing in bringing it to the attention of the public. All right? Who should educate? I think the leaders, first of all, have a responsibility. When I say leaders, not just the political leaders, but as in this case, the pastor, right? Because he recognized something and he brought it to the attention of the public. A lot of times, the public doesn't know what's going on, okay? They're too busy with
day-to-day bread and butter issues and don't know these things. And so it behoves people who are paying attention to bring it to their attention. And so I really think, answering that question, I understand you when you say, everybody say education, you got to educate, and you ask who. Well, I am here to suggest that there are people who are charged with educating, and they should fulfill their responsibilities.
And you think those people know that it is their responsibility?
Well, they put themselves up for leadership.
The work with,
no?
Yeah, but the question I asked was, you said that, for instance, you got, we have here the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons. You would argue that she is in that ring that you call the leadership ring?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
And you think she knows that she is required to lead on certain particular topics, for instance?
I would hope so.
No, you would hope,
you
but
put yourself up for leadership or a leadership position.
Right.
You carry some kind of responsibility.
Right, I get that, but I'm talking about from a practical standpoint, living in the society. You think that they know?
I honestly feel most of them know. I don't think, generally speaking, they know.
Right. Well,
but
don't you hear them? Know. Don't you also hear them also asking the society or whoever to fix these things?
The leaders themselves?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, it isn't that they're trying to devolve responsibility. What I'm saying is they also know that the public out there, by and large, are not interested in certain things. And so something like this, for instance, I don't know if they felt that it would have been something contentious or what, and so let's sneak it in there, and nobody will be harmed, there will be no outcry or nothing.
So doing something like that, what do you call it? Strategic, brilliant leadership?
There's nothing more like strategic, deceptive leadership.
Okay.
There's nothing brilliant about that.
Well, I don't know, because I'm here and for the past few decades trying to get educated as well.
Yeah, but wouldn't you call that deception if they know they make a change like that? And there's no consultation, let's say with something like that. I would imagine that there would have been some kind of consultation with somebody. I don't think one or two people got together in a room and decided, let's put this there. It has to be something more than that. Okay? And that is why I said, I almost feel some kind of deception is involved. I hope I'm wrong, but I can't imagine, based on our society, that somebody would make a change like that, knowing fully well that it's controversial, and not say anything, hoping that, people would just say, oh, okay, and just go on as usual.
But what if I were to argue with you, and that's exactly what's going to happen after we talk about it for a couple of days, and it stays there, and that's it?
It will go away?
Yeah. What if I argue that?
And you may be right, because there's a kind of, I think, cynicism and disillusionment that I think is creeping in the society. That, well, if it's not my bread and butter, don't bother about it, kind of thing. Okay, there's no... People are less reluctant to take principal position on anything right now, because it doesn't seem as if when they do that, they win.
Okay. All right, caller. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the lines. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webb, and good evening to you, all your panelists.
Good evening.
I'm glad to hear there's a female on the panel.
Once again.
Now, I am not surprised, As I said, and maybe you heard me say it before, they had all of this kind of workshop talking about human rights. And you might have heard me say it was a cover-up for the homosexual segment of the population. That was the purpose. So whenever you raise it, oh well, everybody got rights. So you put it on, and that is deception to me. Because they know that if the religion, the predominant one is Christianity, against it. And while that to me contributed to a large extent, and Camilla run for the presidency, because the religious right became active on the abortion and the homosexual thing.
Well, let me ask you this, caller.
Go ahead.
The religious right, when Trump had his issues with the women and grabbing them here, there, and everywhere and stuff like that, they didn't make Trump pay.
They did what?
They didn't make Trump pay for it. They rewarded him. Not correct? Same religious right.
Man, they were active.
No, let me go over the question again.
Yes, go ahead.
Right. You are opining that Kamala lost because she was pro-abortion.
Well, it contributed to a loss.
Contributed heavily.
Yes, you were
okay.
Contributed.
Contribute. Okay. So my question is, the same religious right, when Trump was grabbing people here, there, and everywhere, and he won, is it fair to say that contributed to his win because the religious right went heavily for him?
They were inactive. But I don't know, all of a sudden, even the Catholic Church and whatnot, with the pro-life and the different things, you know? I suppose they're sorry what they bought now.
Oh, they're sorry now, okay.
I believe so, yes.
So they did not, so in other words then, that same religious right, and for those of us who are not very current with the terms, those Christian people, they did not have the foresight to know.
You know, politics make people stupid.
Oh, they made them stupid. So
stupid.
those,
you know, there's no reason.
So walk with me. Those people of God did not pray to God to help them reason that part out?
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
God, they didn't pray to God. Look what the man said about South Africa. Where was he when they had apartheid? You understand? Elon Musk. He's now saying that in South Africa they're prejudicing and discriminating against the white people. And he write up under Trump. He's the one sanctioning this and stopping this. Look, USAID. USAID, we depend on USAID to fund some of our programs with the health, HIV, different school things. And you shut down, everybody must go home. So now they are faced with it. They are faced with it. And all they could do is moan and groan. But Dr. Joe, you see, when you think you're getting away with it, because if the person did not call in this evening, I would not have expected that. Because, you know, we're such a docile society. Most of us, very docile, and we shrug it off. Now, when Trump said they only had 2 sex, and you go up again, now he's saying his passport with the other. What next? Will they let you in? Will they give you the visa? Will they cancel the visa? Have you thought about that?
Well, there's choices, and every choice has a consequence. You agree with that?
Yeah, but sometimes it's only after you see the consequence to think about it. Because I said, look at the man say, only 2 sex, all who think they are 3 and 4 and 5. When you present yourself to the immigration officer in the U.S., and you have chosen something other than the 2 that they say exist, what will be their reaction towards you?
Well, caller, might I ask this question? The U.S., and you mentioned the U.S. Constitution separates religion and the politics, correct?
They say no, you know.
It doesn't?
They say no.
It doesn't
Some say yes when it is convenient, and others say no.
Okay. So then whose voice carries?
Who is back in the party power? That is how
So it will
that's how countries run, you know.
it will, in other words, it will vary accordingly.
It
then.
vary according to the ruling political
Okay.
party organization.
All right. All right. Okay. So we will see how that goes. Now you wanted to come in?
Yes, WEBBO. I'm not surprised at all that this have appeared in such forms like passport and so forth, and I'm surprised we seems to be surprised about it, because we've been seeing, to me, the erosion of religious Christian morality within our society. I think we sometimes just refer to ourselves as a Christian society without even thinking, really. But to me, you know, I've been noticing, and I'm sure all of us have been noticing, that kind of destruction of real Christian principles around us. And as it relates to what we're talking about, we see it as a growing phenomenon every day. We see people who, you know, sure if they're man or woman these days, women pretending to be man and vice versa. And of course, it's not our right to shun them or to say anything to them, but we tend to just work with them. We see it in politics. We see politicians even reflecting that kind of manner. And so I am not surprised that, you know, it has gone this far. And of course, you know, like Mr. Fifield make mention about gender and the word gender and sex, but I really think gender is the appropriate word, because if you think is the gender reflects the way you think and your lifestyle, that's what really affects the society, not what you really have as it relates to your private parts. Really, it's your behavior, it's the way you think, your attitude and gesture and so forth impact on others, and that is what really create a society, whether a good or bad society.
In the gender you're speaking of, Naya,
yeah,
you are speaking obviously of women and men, and correct?
I'm speaking of the word gender as opposed to the word sex that Mr. Fifield thought that it should be replaced with.
So when you said gender, then you are not signaling or pointing out man or woman. That's what you're saying?
It is commonly understood that we are speaking to man or woman.
Okay. And when you do that, based on whether it was the scriptures people are going to refer to, or tradition, they would then tell you that if you are male, you're expected to do certain type of thing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you're female, you're expected to do certain types of thing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, based on that definition, you're arguing that you are going to be conforming to that?
No, I'm not arguing that at all, because that in itself is being eroded as well. The idea that male supposed to do a certain kind of thing and and female supposed to do a certain has been eroded.
Correct.
And continually, it looks like.
Right. So my question to you is, then it's okay for that to continue eroding? Because remember, your argument seems to be saying that you are, you know.
Well, we are playing the whole game thing here in a sense. I call it a game, but I mean, if it's okay for what is being usually done by man to now be done by a woman, I can't say it's not okay, because I mean that's the world we're living in today. We're talking about women taking up certain position and enjoying certain responsibility,
right,
as opposed to back in the times when it was a man-dominant world in a sense. Right. You know, I mean, Miss Cleon, I mean, she's a lawyer, I myself studied law, but we all know the whole concept of the law that we studied is being a man-dominant phenomena in a sense.
Right. So my
today,
question is,
what we see is a lot of things that's been said traditionally was the man thing. It's now becomes also the woman thing.
Right, and so there is no argument about that. That is okay. To have those chains. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah. No, there is no argument at all.
Okay, good.
No argument.
So how would you answer the folks now who now say that the other part of it that you persons seem to have an issue about, which are changing, how come you're making noise about that? Meaning that the fellas now want to be like how the girls are.
Yeah.
Yeah, how come? So how would you answer that question?
I answer that question because, we are a religious dominant or dominated society in a sense.
But
religion is major.
But then you're going to get the argument from, for instance, I'm sure the pastor or some pastors and others they can point to areas of the scripture, maybe by interpretation, that the man is the head of the house, etc., etc., etc. No?
That is true. That is true. That is true. But what I'm saying is that we cannot continue in the vein that seems to have its orientation in a religious bearing as such. That in itself seems to be acting in a way against a particular gender. For instance, there are parts in the Bible that say that only a man supposed to be a preacher. In some Christian church, a woman can't be a preacher. And so as we go forward, we are questioning these things and asking why. Because we are in effect saying that man is the dominant gender and man is clothed with more responsibility, more know-how and more everything than the woman is.
And you're saying that we should move away from that?
But you see, that's a different issue, WEBBO. It's a different issue to this thing that we're dealing with now, where man is trying to be woman and woman is trying to be man.
Hello. The question is, how you determine which parts you're going to change and which parts must remain? Cleon.
Yes, WEBBO. I take all sides of the argument, but my position is a simple one. Okay? The whole argument about gender, identifying gender, and it seems like now with the approach now is that we are moving to self-identification of gender. And for me, as I would say, we always have, society is always evolving, perspective. They will help people identify themselves, their comfort level. But for me, the issue is simple. If it is that we are going to make certain changes in terms of how our approach to gender identification, I still believe that even before we got to the point of making changes to legal documents such as passport forms and such like that, I believe that there should have been a discussion so that we can really ventilate these issues. I don't think that there's any wrong or right answer. I do believe that, of course, we come from a very religious society. We are Christian dominated, and the Bible within itself in Genesis identifies two sexes, and that is male and female. And so those things are not disputed. It is what it is. But I'm just simply saying that if it is a decision was taken now to have self-identification of gender, then surely it's really difficult to impose that upon the general public and then expect people to either take it or leave it, because what we are doing now, really, we ought to have done that before. I mean, we can sit here all night and have debates as to the different roles and the different gender and what is changing, and all of that is welcome. It makes for fruitful discussion, but at the same time, when we are looking at changing policies, and that certainly I believe that is the approach that is being taken, then before you get to that point, there's some background background work that you must do, should have done, or to have been done in order for us to be able to feel comfortable. Because as you said correctly, WEBBO, and from the previous caller before, it's all comes down to leadership, and if we are going to elect people to lead, it cannot be just an approach as to do as I say when I say. Something like this would certainly need some sort of foundation. I need to understand, what really is the psyche behind it. What's the mission? What's the objective? I don't know. Could it be that the farms will really change to meet some sort of international standards? I really don't know. So that's why I'm saying we have to really go back to basics, and before we make these type of changes, simply have discussions, educate people, have consultation.
Fifield?
Yeah. Well, I do believe that leaders, elected leaders, are put in place to, in part, guide us. And if there are changes to be made to policies, to laws, indeed, in this particular case, there should be some level of discussion with the public. The Bible that we refer to, it also said something to the effect in it that we should obey the rules of the land. And who make the rules of the land? And in accordance with what? We are a Christian society, and as such, the laws of the land would be based on the Bible. We speak to the 10 Commandments: thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, etc., etc. And around those 10 Commandments, generally laws of the land is made or has been made. And there's a section, a portion in the Bible that speak to Sodom, Gomorrah, etc. I am not very familiar with the Bible, I suspect, as maybe others. But what I'm saying is that, Miss Simmons would have said that she don't know if it's possibly for international requirement. And if that is so, then we ought to know. And we ought to know in a timely manner, and discussions must be had. This, I believe, is a topic that people, it's very touchy. Some persons, no doubt, would be dancing around it, especially elected leaders, because they do not want to make a particular cross-section of the country feel a particular way and another feel a particular way. But I believe that this could have some mature discussion. Persons, put, their thoughts out aloud, because we must remember, first and foremost, we are humans, and it doesn't matter, your perceived agenda. We are humans, as I said, and some of these same persons are our relatives, our fathers, our sisters, our moms, our aunts, our uncles, and we love them the same way. What I personally have a difficulty with, or would have a difficulty with, if persons are trying to influence, other persons to probably engage to walk the pathway that they are walking, especially that person, who they are trying to convince is walking another pathway.
But ain't that actually the essence of life, though? To persuade?
Right.
Why do you think Jesus, God, allowed Satan to continue to try? Why do you think he invited him to test his great servant Job?
You know, Webbo, it seems like we all agree, because we see these people every day. So there is that agreement amongst us that these such people exist. So like some of them we refer to them sometimes as they them, because they are not really as they see themselves, man or woman. We seem to agree that they exist, but we have a problem when it looks like some kind of things, reference is being made to them in a particular document, like the passport. I am not sure what a public discussion on this would have changed, to be quite honest. You know, only to make people more aware that it's going to happen, and it's almost like, you know, standards of the day, meeting standards of the day. I'm not sure what a public discussion may have.
You know, that's a great point. You know why I think it's a great point? Because we had the discussions on marijuana, a lot of noise. What kind of results you think you would get if you actually did a poll, an honest poll, like a referendum, right? What results you think we likely will get from our society in reference to the legalizing of it or not? You think we'll get a yeah?
Yes, I think you'll get a yeah.
Cleon, you think we'll get a yes?
I'm sorry, the legalizing of
legalizing of marijuana in our society. If we did a poll of the persons who reside here, to do it or not to do it, you think we will get a yes?
I think we probably would.
If I feel you think we'll get a yes?
Well, but I believe that it's going to be very close. The reason why I'm saying that it's going to be
You think
close.
We'll get a yes or no? Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hi, Robert, it's me again.
Yeah.
You see, my biggest concern about this whole thing is that when these people came the first time, right after the pandemic, under the previous administration, they came not to talk about changing the passport, you know. They came, the meeting was about changing the school curriculum and start teaching the children nonsense about choosing what gender you want. So this business with the passport form could be the beginning of it. I don't know whether or not this passport form was changed on the previous administration of this one. However, it seems as though it just came out recently. So only God knows what the previous administration had said to these perpetrators when they came. Right, I don't remember what year it was, but it was under the previous administration. I know for sure. Somebody was in the meeting, told me about it and their concern, and about changing the school curriculum to go use their books. Now, if there was a discussion on this matter and there was pushback, I don't think that the Prime Minister would go on ahead. Because if the Prime Minister go ahead, we don't know how far nobody knows how far this thing is on and how far they did get. What if one day we hear that they're changing the curriculum and they're going to start teaching this gender thing, male, female, and shim and all this type of thing in the schools? He would think twice before doing it, because in the next election he would lose, because there are more people who are against this thing than who are for it. Like I mentioned to you, there were prominent Democrats in the Senate and in the House who decided they could not endorse Kamala Harris because of this. And so, had they changed their ideas, I mean, it was too far for them to change. And I'm saying that's one of the main reasons why they lost, because their own senators, of some of them, came out publicly and said that they have girl children and they are in sports and they don't want any male overrun their children in sports. Male must stick with male sports and the male should not be in female sports. And that was the problem. And I'm saying that how far, we don't know how far the Prime Minister has gone with this thing with the education system.
That thing, caller, in reference to Camilla losing again in part. That thing there in the Democratic Party has been going on. Obama signed one of those laws.
That is
and
true.
he won. Work with me, and he won.
Exactly.
Biden supported it, and he won.
Exactly.
So, I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
They did not campaign on that thing. They did not go out on the limb that she went out on. She went too far with it.
I don't know how far. Well, I can't argue about the extent, but that is how I know about it, because Obama and Biden them campaigned for it. That's how I know. That lady lost in part.
Her two main issues were gender and abortion, and she went too far with it. But that's a fact. She didn't want to talk about the economy. She didn't want to talk about the border. The border part of it is a number of things, but I'm saying that no, not before their own party members come out publicly and say that they're not going to endorse her because of these things. One governor, a Democrat governor, said that he cannot endorse her because he don't want his girl children to be involved in, male to be involved in sports with her children. So, losing, support. What I'm saying is, we cannot wait until the Prime Minister say one day, or the Minister of Education, we're changing the education system. We should have been told, and this should be a discussion, just like he could bring this thing upon us, spring it upon us. I don't know how long this passport form thing, if it is this year or last year, but I don't think it was with the previous government. I'm saying, just like they spring this on us, they could spring this changing of the education and mess up the children head in school. And this is what I'm saying, that he should not have done this.
Caller,
the public.
Let me ask you this. You find that this is an isolated issue whereby it was handled that way, or you find that is a common practice?
It seems to be an isolated thing, because normally they have discussion.
Oh really? So that with other issues, they normally have a lot of engagements and discussions and so?
Sometimes. It is not, no, but sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But with this one, though, I really think that it should not have been done that way. The Christian Council and at least the Evangelical Association should have had to say about it, because as far as I know, they were not invited to the initial meetings, and I don't know how many meetings they have had. As far as I know, neither the Christian Council nor the Evangelical Association was involved in these meetings, and they should have been involved. That's all I'm saying. And you now have a Minister of Ecclesiastical Affairs, I think. He should have informed the Christian Council and Evangelical Association that we are going to make this change.
But you also agree, though, caller, that sometimes when the Evangelical Association and the Christian Council are not informed, they speak out too. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, and therefore it is fair to deduce that they speak out on those things that really interest them?
Yes.
Okay.
Due to the fact that it's written on the passport form, what is a great threat to society?
No, it's not a threat to the society. I'm just saying that they sneak this upon us, and you don't know what else they're going to sneak. And in fact, that you go into certain places, business places here on Nevis, and they're telling you to choose your gender. One person said they were shocked when they asked him, a male, they're going to ask him, what is your preferred gender? Like, what? They knew this? They should have, I feel as though that this thing should not be sprung upon people like this. People should know. They should put it out there in the public before they go around doing this. I don't know if this was done after the passport form was changed or before the passport. A policy thing like this should be brought to the public. Just like how it was done in the Bahamas and it was done in Africa.
But
the prime ministers came out and spoke and said to them, we are not interested in this.
Okay, so when you're suggesting it should be brought to the public, in what manner? So that the leaders come and inform them, or that the public have a say?
The public should have a say, and first of all, before they bring it to the public, when they had these meetings, I do not know how many meetings they have had, but as far as I know, the Christian Council and Evangelical Association was not involved. I don't know who all were involved in the meetings, but I know the Ministry of Education was involved, ministers of government were involved. How could they leave the Christian Council and Evangelical Association out?
And I will argue again, they sometimes leave the Christian Council and the Evangelical Association out, and they bring themselves in. You agree with that?
I don't think that they were aware of this. I don't believe that they were aware of it.
Okay, so this might help them to be aware. So let's see where it goes from here.
Exactly, and that's why I brought it to this attention here, because I know they're listening to Von Radio, and I'm hoping that they pick it up. And as a matter of fact, the ministers of religion are being asked to be a part of the day of prayer, and I think that is going to be. And my prayer is that the Prime Minister's eye will be open, and he would see that he's heading down a slippery slope. And he could be talking about international standard, and he has to keep up with international. I know that's what they're going to say now. That they're changing this because of international standards. What about the Bahamas? What about every nation in Africa? Where the leaders came out and said, we are not interested in this. We are interested in development for our people, economic development. They said it plain and clear. And so, international standard, they're not alone. We talk about going back to Africa. Let's stand with Africa. And the Bahamas, as far as I know. I don't know what the other Caribbean islands have said, because they're very silent on it. But the Prime Minister of Bahamas, maybe you have seen the clip, he was circulating, and he was very, very clear. And he asked his overseas, what do you call him again, the ambassador, if you are involved in that in the United States, come home, because this is not what the Bahamas is interested in. And so I feel as though that we should have known this thing, really, because I don't know where the Prime Minister stands on it, and I would like to hear him, somebody, Well,
let me ask you this. What if the Prime Minister were to come and address us and inform us of it? You will say, okay?
And inform us that he's going to do it?
Yes.
Well, let him know that he's heading on a slippery slope, and sure he's not going to win the next election.
Okay. All right.
Okay then, bye.
Okay. Yes, Cleon.
Yes, sir, boy. As I said, for policy decisions like these, I do agree with the caller. There really needs to be, a wider discussion, some sort of communication, because sometimes we may see something as being very simple, and I think just having heard Pastor Maynard speak about it, I think I do recall filling out a passport form perhaps for a client, and I do remember the question, and I thought it had me a bit confused, because I was thinking for a minute you had to actually stop and think. So I do remember having that experience where you had to think, okay, it caught you by surprise where you had to think about your gender. Even though I know I am female, just seeing it there, I stopped thinking, and I'm there like, huh? My gender, what does this mean, or what does other mean, or what does this X thing means? And so it really, just to avoid, I think if people are educated, and if they are sensitized, and if they are aware, it's to just avoid that discomfort or that feeling of surprise where you have to stop and think even about your own self, where for all your life you have identified yourself as a particular sex or gender. You have to stop within that minute and think, oh, am I so and so? And then we have in our society, yes, we have people who are male, female, some in between, but we also have people who are interchanging. 1 minute they're male, next minute they're female, next minute, so it's a bit confusing. So to avoid
yeah, let me just get this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Paternal love and greeting, Brother Webber.
Yes.
And paternal love and greeting, brother. And paternal love and greeting, my mother of creation. How your night is going forward?
Good evening, Rasai. I'm doing well, thank you.
Eternal Shinkanana. Yeah, blessed night to your program, Brother Webber, and to your listeners via radio, internet, and on your call, your social media call, as let's say Facebook, and YouTube. I would just like to say, We are looking at something here very mystical that is playing for world dominance of economical power. You see, and some people are lingering, trying to encourage themselves because they want to look prestige. But we're not looking at prestige, we're looking for equality between man and woman, not no gender change. And we would like to say it's time now we make this to be very formal because they have these things they're promoting on our young children, even to the colors. And they're using it a lot into the school pattern. I heard about they use something telling them they want it come into the curriculum. It's a shame to see whoever going on and adopt that here is embarrassing moral of where we say we're standing. In a Christian society, you know, a revolutionary, so we would like to see our people live in equality and not no self-interest because Babylon system have to fall. You all have a blessed night and be peaceful with the love of the Almighty.
All right, thank you. You as well. You know, what I observe, one of the things is this, that the pastor had made a point earlier, and I sometimes wonder whether or not if we do a stitch in time, it wouldn't save 9. Because if you have a common practice of just putting things in and springing it and tell you and stuff like that, and that seems now that it becomes a norm, then you do things that way, not correct?
Yes.
Now, well, you want...
WEBBO,
yes.
You know, just something that came to mind. You know, as a youngster growing up, the youngster might have been taught to call a female that is his or her mother, sister, auntie, and the brother, uncle. That child might make a mistake and call his mother, male sibling, auntie. I think that growing up, that child would have been corrected and said, no, he's not your auntie, he's your uncle. So what are we saying now? Is this a mistaken road we are going down and we should not correct it if indeed it is wrong? Just a thought that came to mind.
But does that, to answer your question, does that it is determined by what is your guiding principle or book?
Yes.
So there is the answer then. It depends on what guides you.
That's true. So the question is, what guides us as a people?
WEBBO, we see these people every day, and I'm not saying we should do something with them. They are individual, they are human being, but we seems to be okay with it.
I wanted to point something else out because you know, over the years we've been having a lot of debate on equality, whether it is gender, what, and stuff like that. And I saw something which I find was very interesting. Somebody are they celebrating Counselors Week or month or something?
Week.
Yes.
Week, Counselors Week. And I saw some congratulations going out to all the counselors. I saw a photo with them, and there were 12, and there were 11 female and 1 male. So I got to thinking, from all the discussions and debates that we had, were it to be 11 male and 1 female, do you think we'll have a debate surrounding that to get that equalized somehow?
It's a possibility, WEBBO.
You think?
Yes. Yes. If when we look at our schools,
well, then why? Because if you're saying that you have 11 female counselors and 1 male, and there is no debate to say equalize it. My question is, why would there be a debate if there were 11 male counselors and 1 female? All under the heading of what we're talking about with gender equality, etc., etc. Cleone, you wanted to make a point there?
You asked a very interesting question, however, because I know if it certainly was the reverse, then surely you would have an issue of gender equality, because certainly it would be more prominent if you had 11 males and 1 female. And I think that is just the way how our society really view things. But I think it is important for us and to really be deliberate in our efforts, and sometimes there are a lot of variables that affects these type of outcomes. For example, you just may very well get more females pursuing that particular profession than males, okay? And at that time, because of the positions that you have and the population that you have to choose someone who's applying, that may just be the way it turned out to be. But I do believe that in terms of policy decisions, and it's very important, it's a very important point. Sometimes we ignore it, and it does have consequences, because whether we want to accept it or not, male and female, we see things differently, we behave differently, and we have different approaches, and so we just have to.
That's an excellent point. That is, and when you go back to the Bible speaks of it. And as a matter of fact, this might be a light moment, but a fellow says to a girl one time, in giving her a compliment, God took his time making you, and he hurried me off. so that's just the way it is. It took time, all that finesse and all that. So with that, tenderness and stuff like that, you don't have the rough hands like Naya. And so that is why sometimes it's now becomes different.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And we really should not try to compete. I think a lot of time the sexes are competing with each other. For example, you mentioned Naya rough hands. I don't aspire to have Naya's rough hands, but I do appreciate him having rough hands. And so what we need to do is understand and accept that.
Because by the way, if you tell him his hands soft, he'll vex.
I think perhaps.
Yeah, okay.
So you see, it's what we have to really focus on is not so much being equal in terms of competing, but we have to accept that we have similarities, we have differences, and we have to find a way to complement each other as the different sexes and respect each other. And I think that is really where the dialogue has to go. And sometimes in organizations, I will see different organizations have different policies where they make deliberate attempts and efforts in order to ensure that they have that kind of gender balance, so that people do not feel that they are left out. And we have to appreciate that male can bring different things to the table, same with females, and so it's important to really strike that balance. And I think that should really be the focus, and not so much the equality in a sense that we are competing, because we are very different. Sometimes I've heard persons say that and I always say this, and I tell my friends this, and people know me, I believe that the male really is the head of the household. And I know in times where there is female empowerment, and where female are now being exposed to certain jobs, and we have this whole issue of gender equality, it is sometimes difficult for people to accept that. But we have to look at things from a really real perspective.
Let me get this clear on. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air. Good evening.
Hello?
Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm listening to the program now. As a child growing up, on the Bible, the Word, I have learned so many things. Right back there in Genesis, really about male and female, you know.
Caller, I have a suspicion your radio is on a little loud, so why don't you turn it down and help us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up and I been back and forth to various Sunday school class, and I learned that God created us male and female. And as the Honorable Lady is saying, we are male and female. And I don't think we need to compete anything, but just let me read a verse or two here from the Bible. Now, Romans chapter 1, I'm reading from verse 23. And God and changed the glory of God into a uncorruptible God into like the image, like the corruptible man. And birds, four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up unto uncleanness, through the lust of their own heart, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, that is God, who is blessed forever. Men, for this cause, gave them up unto vile affections. For even the women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the nature use of the woman, born in their own lust towards one another, men with men and women with women, and doing that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was meat. Now, I read that because, you know, as a boy growing up, I know, and since as a father and a husband, I had my two boys, and I used to, at times, sit them down myself and my wife, and I would make the distinction between myself and their mother, you know, and I would take them to the Bible, because that's the one way I used to correct them very much in the Bible. And I would say to them, there is your mother, she is a woman. God made man first, a man. Okay?
Okay, caller, so in the interest of time, could you just summarize the point that you're making?
Yeah, so what I'm saying with this gender thing that they are talking about, you know, the Bible, the gender is male and female, man and woman. And I used to say to them, this is the way God wants us to go. Okay, and we must follow the Bible, because the Bible is our standard. The Bible is our standard as God wants to guide us. And many a times we get ourselves into trouble by not following what God says. And I would say to them, you know, my wife and I have to respect her. She's my wife. And I don't see a problem with a woman taking headship. Yes, the Bible says man is the first, man is the head. But their wisdom, their input, because we are a team, right? We help each other. And so that strengthens us and gives us that power to understand. And what people need to understand, these decisions that they're making with this passport thing, they need to have the pastors, as the pastor was saying, evangelical thing, and they must discuss these things and bring it to the public, because they're going to have conflict.
Okay, caller, I think we got your point, okay? All right, thank you. Can it not then come to the conclusion that there are choices? And even as Jesus came and was making his case for the world, there were the persons who were contrary to him. And consequently, he said, you know, I'm going back and I'm going to prepare a place. And here are the instructions and guidelines. If you follow these, you can come. If you don't, there's another place. So, can our argument not fit under that? Because we're not going to get everybody, so there'll always be dissent. But that doesn't mean you should not, again, to come to the word. I think that Roger was using earlier, and I told him that's the essence of life. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to persuade.
But we're in the society that we live where they have various religions and sometimes conflicting ideas. Shouldn't a good government try to accommodate them all?
That's a very good question too. But I don't know how you can accommodate everybody. How can you do that? Because it's like, can it not be fit under the heading when some people argue about freedom of speech? I should say what I want, when I want, if I want. Yes, but what happens if you hurt the other fellow?
Consequence.
You see what I'm saying? And talking about that, anybody is getting concerned about the violent and hateful and poisonous rhetoric that we are spewing out as a society?
Well, that's have been a concern. The society seems to have gotten pretty tough, rough, and even this very topic is a part of the coarseness as well, and that's why I'm thinking, even though some may give that impression that they don't know what they are, male or female, we still have to show them that respect and be accommodative, especially sometimes in a legal document like a passport. But it stops somewhere. Because people talking about the sports where and so forth. But of course, and people talking about the curriculum. To me, these are things quite different to a legal document like a passport, where everyone seems to must have a right to. And if we are to adapt that definition that Mr. Fifield gives gender, I find I wouldn't worry about it much.
And I'm highlighting the cussing of people and stuff like that, because that's part of what you describe as a coarseness.
Yes.
So I'm not you're minimizing your part, your point that you highlight, or Cleones or Fifield. So I'm just adding my highlight. People just feel that they should cuss you. I mean, I see some things on YouTube, and I don't even like to go there now. The Prime Minister, it doesn't matter who it is, we're talking about the office and respect.
Yeah.
Prime Minister is giving a speech or something like that, or the Premier, and people are commenting with a set of cuss word and all these kind of things. You took lying and those kind of things and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, some people will argue nothing wrong with that. Right. So my point is then, so that's where we are.
Sadly.
We've fed a lot of things, but some people sit down all day and look at TikTok and it's pure violent stuff.
And to
pure foolishness.
we look at it,
things that really degrades, and
but we contribute to it too, right?
Well, it becomes a part of us because if my friend look at that all day, not my friend, or someone's look at that all day, then he practice it in a society which I'm a part of.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, we not only look at it, we don't post things too.
Yes.
Some of those things we're talking about, no?
No, not kind of that. I would know.
Well, I was speaking universal.
But go ahead, someone else.
No, you could finish.
So.
Yes, well, I think you make a very good point. I think the society has eroded to the point where people no longer show each other respect. People no longer respect offices and things like that, and it's just cussing. It's a lot of noise, it's a lot of cussing, it's a lot of abusing, certainly a whole lot of disrespect. But at the end of the day, what I sometimes wonder is, what is the objective? Because in the same breath, sometimes people are cursing and abusing other people, disrespecting a particular office, but still in the same breath asking others to respect a person in a similar position and respect their office. So again, what do we want? At the end of the day, I think respect should really be reciprocal, and so if you want respect, you should be able to give respect. It's a give and take situation. It has always been. It cannot be that I don't respect you, so I'm going to curse you, I'm going to abuse you, I'm going to say all manner of things against you, but at the same time, from you, I want you to respect me, or respect this person or this agenda. It really doesn't work that way, and so that is where I said, in everything in life, in society, there must be a balance. There should be some sort of mutual respect. Once we start thinking about finding that balance, I think most things, decisions and things like that becomes easy. It's all about respect at the end of the day. That is the foundation.
Is anyone thinking or following or watching the effects of the policies that are now being implemented in the United States and how they will affect us even here in the Caribbean? I noticed in the news the U.S. Virgin Islands governor had basically asked his folks in the VI government not to cooperate with the federal in terms of the immigration stands and so on and so forth. And I think the Antiguan Prime Minister is making a point of that as well. It's a tough time to lead, right?
Yes, Webbo, I feel so, certainly, and with these decisions that President Trump,
Roger, just let me get this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that we have become, or this course has become much coarser. But if you have a choice between a docile society that just accepts everything, just shut up and accept everything, or a society that challenges, even if it's not in a way that you like, which would you choose? I agree there should be some happy medium in between there, and it's not necessary to go to the extent of what
I will choose the median.
What's that?
You asked which will you choose, and then you said there is a median, so I'll say I'll choose the median. Yeah. Okay, let me take this other call. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good evening. I'm back.
Yeah, walk with me. Take a minute.
Yeah. Another point came up about the driving. The driving is very serious. We have had many accidents as we listen to the news and as we see the mourning of families. That is very, very important. I have been an instructor for many years. Many persons got license, and I always say to them, follow the protocol. I have one person who drives with me. When you are driving, put your seat belt on. I agree with the the law at the pass, that you must have your seatbelt on, and you must never on your phone be driving and talking. When persons call me, I pull aside, or if I ignore it, because I might be just wanted to reach where I want to reach, I ignore it. And that's another good point. Need to come up, our people need to know how to drive, and some of them want to take over your car, and other vehicles coming on the same side that they're going to overtake you. So many times I have to stop even by the roundabout there at Value Mart.
Okay, caller, you want to try and finish up?
So, I mean, these things are very important, and there must be no people must follow protocol.
All right, thank you very much. And callers, we run out of time, and we ask you, please to take as little time, make your point, but so we can accommodate others. Yes.
Well, one question: is there exists today a wider interpretation of the word disrespect or the word respect? Because sometimes, some people would call a politician and they don't answer, and he said, "Well, he's disrespecting me." And so he feel like he got the right to innocent the man to disrespect him too. So what I'm asking, is there a wider definition in these days of the word disrespect or respect or something? Because, as Cleon says, it's a reciprocal kind of, supposed to be, but sometimes the interpretation of it, throw everything off balance. And that's when it really starts to disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, there's always, again, the debate, right and wrong, good and evil, persuading this person or persuading that. However simple it is, it could be playing just a dominant game or whatever. I want to dominate. I want to be better than you, etc., etc. But it's to what extent it goes, and the cost you pay. You know what I'm saying? But as for me, right, based on my temperament and my interests and stuff like that, if I find a person don't like me and don't want to work with me, I leave them alone. If I go down the road, somebody may want to work with me. You know what I'm saying?
WEBBO, you asked about President Trump and what would probably happen to us here in the Caribbean. I believe that it's trying time for us. It's going to affect us adversely. The tariff that he wants to impose on China, Canada, Mexico, etc., would cause an increase in the prices of goods. And of course, we know that we import a high percentage of our goods here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and hence the prices in St. Kitts and Nevis will increase. And we also are heavily dependent on tourism. So what happens to our tourist product? Persons coming from North America, the prices in the groceries and etc. would increase. Their spending power would be less. And
I thought you meant that Trump is going to put a tariff on the tourists too.
No, the spending power, of course, would be less, and they may not be able to take as many trips, to our shows as they would have wanted to, and thus our tourism product could be under threat also. So it's something that I believe that is much deeper than just the surface of it, and we have to, maybe come together as maybe CARICOM, the leaders of CARICOM, come together and as one union, because if we were to just go as St. Kitts Nevis, we may not be able to have that clout as we could if we go as a union.
Why don't we give Cleon the last word so that we can encourage her to come back some other time again? Cleon, you got the last word.
Thank you, Webber. It was indeed a pleasure for me to be part of your show. I forgot to express sincerest condolences to the family of John Otterton. And so he's someone that I would have worked it over the years as a bailiff. He was a High Court bailiff, and he will be deeply missed. I'm really saddened by his departure. And I just wish to offer, sincerest condolences to his entire family, his wife, his children, the entire legal fraternity, the staff at the High Court, of course the judge. I think we all would miss him, because certainly Mr. Atherton was somebody who was very dependable, very reliable, and someone who was very straightforward. And he always demonstrated extreme professionalism when carrying out his bailiff duties. And so it's really a fallen soldier that we would certainly miss in terms of the legal fraternity and the service that he offered to Nevis. So I just wanted to express and put on record my sincerest condolences to his family.
The Honorable Cleon Simmons Stapleton. The Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons, Roger Fifey, Conrad Nair Liebert. Thank you all again for joining us. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. And join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. You all have a wonderful evening.